Welcome back to Chicago Bulls Chat, part of C-Red UK. I'm Matt, just me tonight. We're trying something new, a little bit of YouTube-only content, see how it goes, try and grow the channel a little bit. Basically, we're trying to cover a little bit of news that breaks and stuff like that before we go do the pods, so we're not having to speak about them on the podcast. Podcasts will still drop on YouTube as well as normal, so if you tune in for them, they will still be here when every week or whenever we decide to record them. So this video tonight, just a little bit of a catch up on basically a few things that have come out of Bulls or from Bulls Nation this week, and the first one being this from DeMar DeRozan.
I got a couple questions for you. I know you're going into free agency this off season. What's the vibes like in Chicago? Are you holding your cards close, trying to see how it play out, or is there somewhere you would like to return back to?
It's definitely, somewhere I like to return to. I think more so than anybody. When the job ain't done with me, Lou, no matter how tough the situation may look, I'm one of those guys that try to stick it through and try to make something out of nothing. The city is great. I love the city. The organization been great. So it's definitely a place I would love to return to and just, take care of unfinished business.
Yeah, so as you can hear in that clip from the FanDuel Run It Back podcast, DeMar says that he wants to come back to Chicago. It's nothing we haven't heard before, but it did send Bulls, or part of Bulls Nation, a little bit into overdrive. Basically, a lot of Bulls Nation don't want him back. AK said that there's going to be change, so obviously a lot of Bulls fans are expecting a blow it up rebuild, and obviously DeMar's part of that. Personally, I wouldn't mind it if he comes back. I like DeMar. He is one of my all-time favourite Bulls, and for me, he's in the all-time greatest Bulls as well, which we spoke about on the last podcast. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. I can see why a lot of Bulls Nation don't want him back. It's part of a failed team, essentially. And, I mean, I don't want him back if it's going to cripple the team financially, which more than likely it's going to. But at the end of the day, we can't let him walk away for nothing because the trade still isn't complete. If San Antonio end up getting our draft pick next year and DeMar's not on the team at that point, it's going to look even worse. Especially if San Antonio end up getting a decent player out of that draft as well. Obviously there is the options of signing trades and stuff like that, but I think Bulls have made it pretty clear they want him. He's made it pretty clear he wants to stay. As he's just said, he loves the city and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's obviously going to be an interesting off-season. Probably not going to go the way a lot of Bulls fans want it to go. And I imagine DeMar's going to be one of them players that ends up sticking around, whether Bulls fans want him to or not. But as I mentioned to Neil once in a private chat, a lot of Bulls fans would quite happily take somebody like Kevin Durant. And I'm not comparing DeMar to Kevin Durant. Personally, I wouldn't want KD. But what I meant by the comparison is, they're both mid-30s, coming to the twilight years of the career. Both, obviously good scorers and stuff like that. And if you look at KD in the last few years, what has he actually achieved apart from moving from team to team to team to try and build a winning team around him, and it hasn't worked. If KD was to come to Bulls, and a lot of the Bulls fans' problem with DeMar is the fact that they think he's holding back the younger core. Well, if we had KD on the team, who are they going to go to in them clutch moments? Who are they going to go to get them the wins? Stuff like that. It's always going to be the veteran. And for me, DeMar isn't a bad vet to have around. The younger players love him. He's got that sort of Mamba mentality. And yeah, I mean, he's not the ideal vet, and I would like to see him go off and win something because, like I say, he is one of my favourite players. And he's not going to win anything at Bulls. Let's be serious. So yeah, obviously I just wanted to have our say on that. I'm sure as the off season drags on and on and on, we'll start hearing more from DeMar about how he wants to come back. We'll start hearing more about the offers. So the next little bit that I'm gonna talk about is Alex Caruso.
All right, when you're guarding that guy, like no matter what you do, he's going to get his 30, 40. You rather him shoot the jumper or you rather him get to the hole and you rather have your help come? Like,
well, it depends how your team's built too.
Right.
I played in Chicago the last couple years. We didn't have the best rim protection like I did when I was in LA.
ouch.
In LA, I sent it to AD. AD's, he's whooping stuff.
Got it.
Stuff. But
That's not a shot.
that's not a shot.
That's not a shot.
Who's just caught a strike?
My guy.
Yeah, that's still your guy. He's still
Vooch would tell you himself.
He's not AD. Like I'm
So I
not
think
AD. He's not a shot.
I think it depends how the team's constructed a little bit. So for me,
Yeah.
I think the last couple of years, I'm trying to force a jump shot
Right.
somewhere, 15 to 20 feet.
Contested jumpers.
Contested jumpers, 15 to 20 feet. Take my hat off. He makes it. We'll go down the court. But, I mean, like you said, the guys are going to get their numbers. You can't let the other guys get more than their numbers, and you can't let that guy get 40, 50.
Yeah, that video was taken from Alex Caruso appearing on TNT last night. The video itself is from Kevin Anderson on Twitter, obviously of NBC Chicago and Bulls Talk podcast. Now, obviously, as you're hearing it, Caruso doesn't actually name Vooch. It's the other people around him that say Vooch, and he says that wasn't a shot. You could ask Vooch himself. He'll say that he's not that type of player. But I think what it has done is it's highlighted just how bad Bulls are defensively. One of the main problems is the rim protection, which obviously Vooch does not offer. I think he's highlighted the fact that there's no defense in the paint, basically. That he's trying to force the opposition to take jumpers from around the arc sort of area. And a lot of people will say, well, Vooch was part of that team that was top 5 defense. But Vooch was also part of the team that wasn't a top 5 defense last season. So it's quite clear to see that Vooch is a massive problem on the defensive end. Unfortunately, he's also got another 2 years left on his deal. Whether you want Vooch here or not, same as DeMar, chances are he's going to be back. And because there's going to be no trade partners for him. And it kind of goes to the whole thing in the draft of what do we draft? Do we draft rim protection? Do we draft shooters? Do we draft a guard? And Bulls are in that much of a state that we need all of it. And, when Vooch is going to be getting as many minutes as he does it matter whether we get some more rim protection in? Because, obviously we had Andre Drummond as backup, only getting, 15 minutes a night. Where's the rim protection coming from then? If it's not going to come from Vooch, it's got to come from your wings. And obviously P. Will is good, whether he's back or not, that's a different thing. Torrey Craig can do it a little bit. Probably not going to come back. So this Bulls team needs a complete overhaul this off-season, as we already know. And yeah, I just really don't know which way they're going to go with it all, as I'm sure nobody does. And the fact that Caruso's highlighted it, yet he's only got a year left on his contract as well, just goes to show if we trade Caruso this off-season, which is obviously real possibility, what are we going to be like defensively then? Because he is one of the best defenders in the league. We've got other good defenders around him like Ayo. Dalen Terry can step up and be a good defender. let's say P. Will, Torrey Craig, but they might not even be back. So, where do we go? We've got to improve around the rim. But how do we do that if we keep Vooch? And I think what AC was highlighting in that was the team defense, not trying to highlight Vooch. Obviously, Bulls Nation, the way it is and the way Twitter is, ran with it that it was a shot at Vooch and that it could cause problems in the dressing room and blah blah blah. But as Caruso says at the end of it, ask Vooch yourself, and he'll say exactly the same thing.
All right, so we're going to start off today. We're always doing our weekly updates on Zoe, your injury. How you feeling? How close to 100% do you feel? And how's progress going with rehab?
It's coming along, man, week by week. It's improving, so that's all I can ask for. It's still not where I want it to be. Okay. Out of 100, I'll probably say I'm about 70, good enough to play, but can still get better, I feel like. So still got a long summer ahead of me, but definitely looking forward to the future.
So yeah, as you can see from that video, the next player I want to talk about is Lonzo Ball. Obviously, as you hear, and as you've probably heard already, he says he's probably about 70% and good enough to play. And that takes me on to this next video that surfaced, I think, last night. So yeah, that video come about last night on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, from @DKM_sports. Now, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. There's no time on it. There's no record of when it was. Don't know if it's recent, if it's before his operation. If you look at through Lonzo's socials, there's no thing of the video. So I don't know where the original source was, but obviously that's where the videos come from this time round. And yeah, it looks good to see Lonzo doing that sort of stuff if it is legit. And obviously backing up what Lonzo's just said, how he's 70% good enough to play. I mean, is 70% good enough to play? Is 70% of Lonzo Ball good enough to play? Because 70% of Lonzo Ball isn't 70% of DeMar DeRozan, even at 35. And I get why a lot of Bulls Nation are happy to hear what Lonzo's saying. I've always said I hope that Lonzo can make a good enough recovery that he's able to play with his kids, he's able to have a normal sort of life. Now, if he is to come back, he's not going to be Lonzo Ball that we saw in them 35 games, small sample size over 3 years. He's going to need time to ramp up. He's not played competitive basketball for 2.5 years, whatever it is now. So is it worth being that excited about? Personally, I'm not. Personally, I don't want to see him back. Yeah, it looks good, and it would be good for Lonzo, but it's not good for Bulls, is it? Because it's 21 million that's getting paid to a player that's going to be on a limited minute, that Bulls Nation are pinning the hopes to that he's still the same player that he was. And when ultimately, chances are he's not, it's basically stopping somebody else from getting minutes that could be on the team a lot longer than what Lonzo Ball is. So for me, I'd rather Bulls manage to find a way to get his contract off the books for next season. I can't see us finding a trade partner for him. So it does look like we're going to have to see him sitting around on the bench, getting limited minutes. And that's all if he can come back. When's he meant to be at 100%? Is it September, ready for training camp? Is it October, ready for pre-season? Is it December? Is it February? you know, and when it finally does happen, Bulls Nation, I think, are just going to be disappointed because you're not going to get the same player. You know, a lot of Bulls Nation don't want DeMar DeRozan back, yet they want Lonzo Ball back. Does that mean that you want to offer him another contract? Do you want to offer him another? I'd imagine he's going to ask for somewhere between 10 and 25 million because he's that sort of a player, he's that sort of a person. You know, so do you want to pin your hopes on someone like that? Because I know I don't. You know, and like I say, this isn't to try and knock Lonzo for trying to come back, but, you know, for me, yeah, Bulls need to find a way to get him off the books. So yeah, that's it for me. Like I say, it's only a shorter one, YouTube only. So appreciate it if you've listened and if you've made it this far. And if you haven't already, like I said at the start, make sure you hit the subscribe because there will be more to come. Obviously, you have to bear with us. It's a bit different for us, one-on-one or one person talking to the screen rather than having somebody to bounce off. So yeah, there will be more videos to come, maybe from Neil next time. And until then, I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can find CRedUK on all the socials at CRedUK.